Godbreakers is an upcoming action roguelike with snappy combat, flashy visuals, and one of the weirdest settings I've seen in a while. A post-apocalyptic world where the sand has gained sentience and basically won a war against humanity. So yeah, we're off to a good start. Hey folks, I'm Ash, and I've spent the past few days digging through the freshly released demo, and I think this one really has potential. So let me show you what makes Godbreakers stand out, what still needs work, and why you might want to give it a try. Since this is an action roguelike, let's start with the obvious. How does the combat feel and what can you actually do? At first glance, it is fairly standard fare. You're constantly swarmed by enemies with varied attack patterns, and you'll need to juggle dodges, attacks, and deal with environmental hazards in order to stay alive. You'll then get new items, become stronger, and move on to even nastier hordes of tunnel crabs and, ball mouths. But once your Godbreak ability comes online, things become a whole lot weirder. Once your charge meter hits 100% and you knock an enemy down to a sliver of health, you can quite literally jump inside them, and then explode from within like some kind of a chest burster. Not only is this an incredibly metal way to show a crab who's boss, but it also lets you steal the enemy's signature ability. Even better, this works on almost everything. Regular enemies, mini-bosses, and pretty much anything short of the main boss. And since these stolen powers were originally meant to destroy you, a highly mobile player, they are very easy to dodge yet pack one hell of a punch. And, well, the monsters aren't quite as good at dodging as you are. The whole thing adds a very intriguing twist to the usual roguelike flow, but without bloating your build with random nonsense. So even in the short demo with only a handful of enemy types, the Godbreak abilities kept combat feeling fresh and exciting. That said, the system could use a tweak. All of these abilities are one and done, which works very well when you're mowing down hordes and constantly getting new toys to play around with. But when you're doing a one-on-one boss fight, you really feel the absence. This is especially annoying if they're taking down a mini-boss because unlocking some of these massive powers feels awesome. But then you just use it on some random crabs and that's it, it's just gone. Or you just sit on it forever and miss out on the whole point of the game. It really isn't ideal. So giving us a few more charges would make a big difference. Just enough to let us enjoy the power trip without turning the ability into a crutch. It is, after all, a very cool mechanic, and I do believe Godbreakers should go all in on it. Now that you've seen the basic gameplay loop, let's talk about what your character can actually do. It revolves around 4 simple moves: light attacks, heavy attacks, jumps, and dodges. By combining these, you can string together various combos and dance around the battlefield with surprising agility. Add in a handful of abilities, some of which you start with and some you pick up mid-run, and you've got yourself a pretty standard but very functional combat system. It's not trying to reinvent the wheel. So if you've played a fast-paced action roguelike before, you already know what this one's gonna feel like. But that is not a complaint, quite the contrary actually. Taking a well-established formula and building upon it is just a smart idea. So while I do hope we see more complex combos and skill synergies as the game develops, for a demo, I do think this is a very solid foundation. That said, there is one part of the combat that drives me nuts. A missing feature that I genuinely cannot believe didn't make it in. There is no lock-on. In a game this fast, where you're constantly darting around your foes or charging straight at ranged enemies, not being able to aim your character while maneuvering just feels wrong. It is especially frustrating during the final boss fight. Squidward over there has massive tentacles that you absolutely need to dodge. But without lock-on, you'll either lunge face first into them or risk embarrassing yourself in front of all of the crabs by just flying straight past your original target. So yeah, Godbreakers needs a lock-on mode. There is no question about it. So what are these abilities I've been talking about and how do you get them? Well, the main one you pick before each run, and it is tied to the class you choose. There's a bunch of different classes planned, though only 2 were available in the demo. Each of these classes has a unique weapon and a small pool of abilities to pick from. Take the big bonky stick guy for example. He gets an AoE nuke that grants barriers to nearby allies, and a way cooler ability that turns him into a walking bomb. You pop a shield, taunt all nearby enemies, and then once it expires, you'll blast all of that absorbed damage right back at him. It is the absolute perfect I'll tank an insta-kill and then spit it right back at the boss's face kind of power, and I love it. It is just mwah, chef's kiss. Now, since this is just the early game demo, it is hard to say how different the classes will feel long term. But even with very limited build options, the 2 classes already do feel distinct. One had a very fast swinging lance, yet the other had a hilariously thick chunk of wood that is very slow to swing yet hits like a dump truck. It is nothing too outlandish in terms of design, but it does work. Beyond your starting loadout, you'll also find new abilities as you play. Most of the ones I saw were simple fire and forget attacks. Very powerful when used in the right moment, but honestly nothing too flashy. So I'm hoping that the full release really spices things up. Every great roguelike needs crazy powers with weird synergies. The kind that break the rules and give each run its own distinct flavor. Now I don't think Godbreakers is there yet, but the groundwork is in place. So what about the power-ups? Well, like most roguelikes, the bulk of your powers will come from the cold dead hands of your enemies. Some are basic passives like more health or a chance to set enemies on fire. Others are special, color-coded perks you can socket into one of 5 slots. This is where Godbreakers gets a bit spicy, as a lot of them do come with a twist. Powerful effects that require you to change up your playstyle to get the most out of them. Take one of my favorites as an example. Dash attacks trigger chain lightning. That's already fun on its own, but then you can upgrade it again so the lightning can zap around even more. Now, to be fair, most of these perks didn't really get a chance to shine in the short demo. There just wasn't enough time or build depth to really make them pop. But I do like what Godbreakers is doing. The perks are not just the boring plus 10% damage increases. You'll also find these perks in shops before bosses, and in treasure chests that are, well, technically hidden. Which brings me to the level design, which is honestly a bit of a mixed bag. The bad part? Well, the actual maps are extremely linear. Like, this makes Final Fantasy XIII look like Skyrim kind of linear. Now don't get me wrong, I get it. It is an action roguelike. Tight levels make a lot of sense as they don't interrupt the pacing. But still, a few secret nooks or crannies or a mini parkour room would really go a long way. Just something to break up the combat sections and let players engage with the world. And I would really like that because Godbreaker's setting is wild. The demo zone takes place in a sentient desert. Actual sand that has achieved consciousness and apparently waged war against humanity, and won. It is such a bizarre idea, and you know what? I really love it. It gives the whole world a slightly surreal edge that makes it stand out from the usual fantasy wastelands. The visuals themselves are also very simple but effective. Clean, colorful, and readable even in the middle of very hectic fighting. And the voice acting? It is surprisingly good. Aside from a few awkward lines, the performances are great across the board. They managed to make even the most basic lore drops feel way more compelling than they had any right to be, and that really is quite the achievement.
Sand taught itself to think, and it went to war with the etheric living forces of the world. The machine, having previously only been able to shape physical matter, could now influence minds.
However, as much as I enjoyed the demo, and I mean, clearly that's the reason I'm making the video, there are two potential issues that give me pause: the difficulty and the pacing. Let's start with the difficulty. I know it's an early game demo, so I do not expect it to be brutal, but the combat right now feels way too forgiving. Enemy attacks have very long wind-ups. Bosses telegraph everything. So unless you're actively trying to get hit, it is not that hard to breeze through most of the fights without taking a scratch. Now, that clarity is a very good thing. It means your success is based on your skill alone and not visual clutter or any kind of randomness. But I do think the balance does need a bit of a push. Either give us more aggressive enemies or, ideally, just more enemies in general. Roguelikes need a little bit of chaos to make the combat truly shine. And right now, Godbreakers feels a bit too clean. The second problem is the pacing of the boss fights, specifically the end of chapter boss. He is very tanky, like really tanky. So much so that even with a high damage build, the fight just drags. And that is a huge problem, because the one thing a boss fight should never be is boring. The first time I fought Mr. Squiddles, I was excited. But halfway through phase 2, I found myself just going through the motions. And how could I not when I was stuck on the exact same loop like it's Groundhog Day? Personally, I would love to see his HP chopped down by a third, and the action dialed at least a bit up. Boss fights should be a send-off, a climax, something to remember, and not just a damage sponge at the end of a very long adventure. Now, it is possible that all of this is already being addressed. The main hub has a couple of locked pedestals that seem to hint at more customization and challenge scaling. But since they are currently inaccessible, I cannot say for sure. So while these issues may be temporary, I do think they're worth pointing out because they really could make or break the final release. So, what is the final verdict? Godbreakers shows a lot of promise, but also a lot of ways things could go very wrong. And that is, honestly, exactly what makes it so interesting. It could become a genuinely awesome action roguelike. One of those hidden gems you end up losing an entire week to without even realizing. Or it could just fizzle out into something totally forgettable. Which way it goes will depend heavily on how the developers respond to the feedback from this demo. So if you're in the mood to check out a rough cut gem and maybe help shape what it becomes, I think it is worth giving Godbreakers a try. A single run takes about 20 minutes and unlocking everything only a couple of hours. So honestly, you can just treat it as a late night snack. Enjoy! Thanks for watching. If you have any questions or thoughts, drop it in the comments. And if you want more stuff like this, make sure to like, subscribe, ring the stupid bell, pet your favorite grain of sand, and do whatever other nonsense you gotta do these days. Bye bye!